it's Glamady Deanna, here to make the next video in my Cooking Through the Betty Crocker cookbook series that I'm doing. Cooking through the 1950s Betty Crocker picture cookbook. Today I'm going to be making Peanut Squares, which is the third recipe. We're still in the easy confections for children. I'm guessing this is going to be like a peanut brittle type of candy, but I've never made peanut brittle actually, and I've never made this recipe, so we're just going to give it a go. Okay, so the first thing the recipe says to do is to mix a teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of soda with a cup of finely ground peanuts. So I ground those up. This is the salt and the soda. So I'll just mix this up and then set it aside. And then in this pan, I'm supposed to stir over low heat until the sugar is dissolved. I got 2/3 cup of water. And I'm supposed to add a cup of granulated sugar and a cup of brown sugar and 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. When you measure brown sugar, you want to pack it into the measuring cup. So it's solidly packed in. And 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. Okay, now I'm supposed to cook and stir this over low heat until the sugar dissolves. Now, after the sugar has dissolved, I'm supposed to cook it without stirring to 290 degrees on a thermometer. I don't know if you watched last week's video, but that was why I said, oh no, this might be my first failure of a recipe, because whenever I try to make candy and it calls to be cooked to a certain temperature, I don't always have good luck with that. I feel that I'm pretty accomplished in the kitchen. I'm a great baker. I make yummy meals. But candy is one thing that I am not so great at. So, hopefully today will be different. I actually have a more accurate thermometer, which will help, I'm sure, because I've always used, I'll show you. this kind of candy thermometer, which I'm sure is accurate, but maybe not so easy to read, maybe not so quick reacting. I'm not sure. But so I got a digital thermometer. Now if you get a digital thermometer, an instant read, you do have to make sure that it goes up high enough for candy, because they don't always. But this one goes up 300 and something. So this is the one I'm going to use today. Now there's another tip that I do know, and I have known, so this is not the cause of my previous candy failures, but you need to adjust for altitude when you're making candy. So I'm at about 2,800 feet here on our farm. So I tested the thermometer. This is how you want to do it. So water boils at 212 degrees at sea level. So what you want to do is you want to test and see what temperature water boils at where you're cooking, where you live. So I did the test, the boiling water test, and water boils at my house at 208 degrees. So that means from these directions, I will also need to subtract 4 degrees. So while I'm supposed to boil this to 290, I will actually be doing it to 286. But the sugar still hasn't dissolved. So not sure how long this cooking process here is going to take. We'll just keep stirring that. And then I will actually read to you some more definitions. Today they're talking about herbs. And so by meaning of terms, what they're saying is when they mention something in this book, say yeast, or some other examples were milk, so they tell you exactly, you know, what they're talking about in these recipes when they use these words. So that's what it means by meaning of terms. So the meaning of terms for herbs. Herb authorities. I didn't know there was authorities. Herb authorities claim there are 6 simple herbs basic to all seasoning. Mint. For tea, iced drinks, ices, pea soup, cottage cheese, salads, salad dressings, meat broths, and potatoes. I've never thought or tried to use mint in pea soup, cottage cheese, meat broths, potatoes, or salads or salad dressings. So that's an interesting idea. Okay, thyme. Common thyme of the many varieties of this herb is the general kitchen herb that glorifies such varying foods as soups, sauces, stuffings, cheeses, meats, hare, like the animal, H-A-R-E, hare, rabbit in other words, fish, and salad dressings. It is particularly delicious with tomatoes, either in a salad or in cooked dishes. Oh, I do love that, to make a little tomato salad. Just chop up some tomatoes, put some thyme, a little olive oil, a little salt and pepper, probably some basil and oregano. That is a very yummy tomato salad. Let's see. Sage. Fresh sage is more satisfactory than dried. The gray pointed leaves should be added sparingly to beans, cottage cheese, salt, saltfish, stews, duck, or geese. Although traditional in stuffing for turkey, herb authorities claim that it's too strong for turkey or chicken. They recommend a blend of savory, thyme, and sweet basil for a more pleasing and subtle flavor. Marjoram. 2 kinds, sweet marjoram, one of the big 6, and wild marjoram, often called by its Spanish name oregano. It is used in all Spanish and Mexican dishes, and is excellent with lamb or fresh mushrooms. The Italians call it the mushroom herb. Sweet marjoram can be used successfully too in all these. The Germans use sweet marjoram in making sausage and call it Wurstkraut, the sausage herb. Its general uses are in sauces, soups, salads, meats, stuffings, and fish. Rosemary, fragrant as a flower. This delightful herb gives subtlety to meat, poultry, sauces, greens, and stuffings. Some prefer it to garlic in a roast. Basil. Basil adds distinction to soups, ragouts, salads, cottage cheese, meats, sauces, and fruit drinks. Basil and fruit drinks. That's interesting. You know, my husband's favorite ice cream is basil ice cream. We were at a fine restaurant one time and they had basil ice cream. And he fell in love with it, had to have it. Now he likes to make it. I've never seen where we could buy it in a store. Maybe we just don't go to those kind of stores. But basil, I actually just think it's okay. But he loves it, so that's something you could try if you're ever making ice cream. Okay. The sugar still is not dissolved. Additional herbs frequently used. Anise. I actually don't know how to say this word. I know what it is. It's kind of licoricey flavored. Seeds used in cookies, breads, cheese, and leaves are used in a salad. Bay leaf for meats, soups, relishes, poultry, and stuffings. Caraway. Seeds used in cookies, breads, sauerkraut, cream cheese, and over roasting pork. Shrevel? I'm not sure about that one either. A salad herb par excellence. Combines well with other herbs. Good in soups, eggs, cheese, and some meats. Chives for potatoes, potato salads, omelets, sauces, and cheese. Curry powder. Not truly an herb, but a powdered combination of herbs and spices, including green ginger, coriander seeds, cumin seeds, garlic, turmeric, chili, and peppercorns, used with lamb and chicken. Parsley. When used as a tasty, nutritious addition to sauces, soups, stews, and meats. Savory. Both leaves and flowers give flavor to poultry, stuffings, salads, peas, pork, green beans, rice, and horseradish sauce. Tarragon. Crumbled leaves are used sparingly in salads, soups, fish sauces, dressings, meats, stews, and sprinkled over fish. Winter savory. A milder herb can be used in larger amounts and is good in fish dishes. The sugar still isn't dissolved. I'm going to turn it up a little. You wonder why I mess up candy? No. And lastly, on the meaning of terms for the herbs page, is herb bouquets. The herb bouquet is the first thing Europeans throw into the soup, stews, casserole, or roasting pan to impart the subtle flavor average American cooking lacks. Fine herbs, French term for a combination of 3 or 4 herbs used to flavor certain dishes. Such combinations as parsley, basil, and chives. They are mixed together, chopped fine, and tossed into the food just before serving. They are used in tartar sauce, cream soups, and cream cheeses. When used in omelets, they are mixed with the eggs before cooking. Bouquet garni. And I don't know if I said that right either. French term for a tablespoon of powdered herbs, such as 2 sprigs of parsley, 1 sprig marjoram, 2 sprigs thyme, and a half bay leaf, tied in a muslin bag and left in a roast or soup for the last hour of cooking, then removed. For canned soups, it should be left in for the entire cooking time. In cold foods, fruit juices, cocktails, or cottage cheese, it takes several hours to draw out the flavor. still are not dissolved. Let's see. When I have to boil it, doesn't say what heat to cook it in, to cook it on at that point, but it says to stir until it's dissolved and then to stop stirring, and it's not dissolved yet, so I guess I'll keep stirring. And talking, I guess we'll go to the next page then. Meaning of terms found in recipe directions. So this is cooking terms, pretty much. Bake, to cook by dry heat in an oven. Batter, a mixture of flour and liquid, usually in combination with other ingredients, thin enough to pour. Beat, to mix with a vigorous over and over motion with a spoon, wire, whip, or rotary beater to enclose air in the food. Blend, to mix very thoroughly 2 or more ingredients. Boil, to cook in boiling water or other liquid in which bubbles are breaking on the surface and steam is given off. Broil, to cook directly under a red-hot heating unit or over an open fire or grill. Brush, to spread thinly as with a brush or finger. Caramelize, to melt sugar to a golden brown caramel-flavored syrup. Chill, to allow to become thoroughly cold but not frozen. Chop, to cut into coarse or fine pieces with a sharp knife or chopper. Combine, to mix unlike ingredients. Cream, to soften fat by rubbing it against the bowl with a spoon or beating with an electric mixer until it is light and creamy. Cream together, to blend 2 ingredients together, such as creaming fat with sugar until the mixture is light and fluffy. Cube, to cut into solids of 6 equal square sides, usually a 1/2 to a 1/4 inch in size. Cut in, to combine fat with dry ingredients using 2 knives, a fork, or a pastry blender. Flake, to break lightly into small pieces with a fork. Fold in, to mix by a gentle motion, cutting down through and bringing up close to the bowl, then folding over before cutting down through again. Proper folding prevents loss of air. Fry, to cook in hot fat. French fry, to cook in hot fat deep enough to float the food. Pan fry, to cook in a small amount of fat, often called sauté. Grate, to rub against a grater to tear food into bits or shreds of various sizes. Grind, to change a food into tiny particles by cutting and crushing in a food grinder. Mince, to cut with a knife or scissors into very fine pieces. Mix, to combine 2 or more ingredients, usually by stirring. Parboil, to boil food in water until partially cooked. Pare, to cut off the outside covering with a knife, as from a potato or apple. Peel, to remove the outside covering by stripping off, as from a tomato, a peach, or a banana. Poach, to cook by surrounding with simmering, not boiling, water or liquid. Preheat, to turn on heat in oven and heat to desired temperature before putting in food. Sauté, to cook in a small quantity of hot fat. Scald, to heat to just below boiling point. Score, to cut narrow grooves or gashes. Sear, to brown the surface quickly with intense heat. Shred, to tear or cut into small, long, narrow pieces. Sift, to pass through a sieve. Simmer, to cook in liquid just below boiling point on top of stove. Slice, cut into slices. Sliver, cut or shred into long pieces. Steam, to cook in the steam which arises from a pan of boiling water or other liquid. Steam bake, to cook in the oven, the utensil being set first in a pan having water reach well up the outside of it. Stew, to cook slowly in a small amount of liquid for a long time. And lastly, to stir, to mix, usually with a spoon by a rotary motion. Like this, for example, until the sugar dissolves. Which I still really don't think it has dissolved. Maybe. I was worried it was going to feel gritty, but it doesn't. So I think I'm going to stop stirring and cook it to 286 degrees. Don't know where it's at now. Let's find out. Still climbing. So it's at about 144 degrees. So we got over 100 degrees to go. So I guess we wait. And we wait. I will see if there's something else interesting. Next it goes to a glossary, special and foreign terms, which I'm not going to read. The dictionary of special and foreign terms. That's just too much for me. Okay, useful kitchen utensils. A guide for selecting. Just as every carpenter must have certain tools for building a house, every woman should have the right tools for the fine art of cooking. The size and needs of each household determine the kind and quantity that may be used for a number of purposes. Colorful utensils add a cheery note to the kitchen. I like red in my kitchen. So for measuring, you would want a set of standard measuring spoons, a big spoon for spooning into a cup, a straight knife for leveling off when you're measuring, a set of nesting measuring cups, which will be in various sizes, pint and quart liquid measures, a utility tray, and a rubber spatula to scrape out cups. So there they have those measuring. Let's see, and then for stovetop cooking, you want a pancake griddle of soapstone or heavy metal, a waffle iron, a coffee maker, a tea kettle, a teapot, a long-handled fork, a pancake turner, and asbestos mats. Okay, I'm going to say to skip the asbestos mats and just get regular pot holders. I don't think we recommend asbestos mats. Okay, for stovetop cooking, 3 saucepans with close-fitting covers, 2 to 4 quart sizes, 2 lipped saucepans for heating liquids. They call them lipped, but the ones they're showing, they have like a pour spout on them. So that's what they're talking about. I've gotten by for almost 30 years without one, so might be useful, but definitely not essential. A double boiler, 1.5 quart if you only have one. And if you've seen my other videos, you've seen how I make a double boiler just with 2 saucepans. A large kettle with a steamer to fit for steamed puddings, etc. Used without a steamer to make donuts. Deep fat frying basket to fit into the large kettle for French fried potatoes, etc. And 2 heavy skillets for frying. 2 heavy skillets or frying pans with covers. One 9 to 10 inches in diameter and one 6 to 7. And then for mixing, kitchen fork and knife for many uses. A flat wire whip beats more air into egg whites. Pastry blender for cutting and shortening. Wooden spoon for creaming, stirring sauces, etc. Blending fork for thorough mixing. Rotary egg beater for icings, etc. Flour sifter, large open, containing a fine weave screen, sifting and aerating white flour, and mixing bowls, a set of convenient sizes. So we're up to 163. So while that's waiting, so I already told you I mixed the peanuts. And then I also have this pan here is greased. I'm supposed to, once it gets to 286, take it immediately off, quickly stir in the peanuts with just a couple stirs, and then pour it right away onto the pan. So once it finally gets there, it's going to go fairly quickly, but right now we're waiting. Okay, so that took a really long time, like an hour, but we are at actually 288 now, so I'm going to hurry, take this off, 2 quick stirs on the peanuts, and then I'm going to throw it in this pan. Well, it said 2 stirs, but that didn't really stir it in. So they call it peanut bars, but yeah, I think this looks pretty much exactly like peanut brittle. It's not spreading out very well. It says to cut it as it starts to cool, but I think that's as thin as I'm going to get it. I thought it would spread through the whole pan, but it doesn't really want to do that. Maybe I can, I don't know if that's working either. So it says, oh, it says warmed pan. So mess that up. The pan wasn't warmed. Spread thinly. As it begins to harden, mark into squares. So I'm not sure. Oh, well, that's pretty hard in there. Yeah, so I'm going to try marking it into squares. Getting quite firm already. This is the piece that was on the spoon. They are cut into squares. I definitely think I should have warmed the pan so they would have got thinner, because I think these are going to be quite hard. It might be too hard to bite. But Peanut Squares, definitely a form of peanut brittle. Pretty yummy. And I didn't fail, so I'm so happy. That's all for today. Peanut Squares really was fairly simple to make, just quite time consuming. It takes a while to get to the high temperature, but besides that, it was actually pretty easy and yummy. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and follow my journey through the 1950s Betty Crocker picture cookbook.